there, my name is Dee and welcome to the channel. So for you to be here, I suppose you've made it through the second phase of the MCW Young Leaders Fellowship, or you're probably looking at practicing in advance for the MCW Young Leaders Fellowship. Either ways, congratulations and welcome once again. So a quick introduction. I'm an alumni of the MCW Young Leaders Access Program, currently known as the Young Leaders Fellowship. And after being a mentee, I went on to become a mentor and also had access to this great platform that further helped me impact my community. I was opportune to be part of the Alumni Venture Fund for 2022, and I am currently impacting my community through this funding. I've also had access to reviewing some applications for MCW Young Leaders Fellowship, and if you're looking at someone who can give you tips on how to ace your interview phase, then you'll be the right person. So if you're looking at being a part of a great platform that will catalyze your growth and impact in your community, then keep watching. So I'll just start by sharing a few tips that will help you ace the community survey, the video presentation, and the interview phase. So first of all, a disclaimer. I am sharing all this based on my experience during my time as a Young Leaders Access Program applicant. So I just hope you find this helpful and also know that there are my takes. They are my tips. They worked for me. I don't know if it worked for someone else, but I'm pretty sure it might work for you. You might find one or more that might work for you. So, first of all, I'll start with the community survey. So my first tip would be research. Personally, I had an in-depth knowledge of the project I was working on, so it wasn't so difficult. And then considering the fact that technology has made things easy for us, it's pretty easy to just check on Google and find out whatever you need to know, and also move into your community. Let's say your target audience are students in the university. Ensure that you find yourself in the university doing the research there, okay? And also, when you're conducting your community survey, you can also utilize the Google Forms online, which makes it really easy, cost effective. You don't need to be at any place at any time. But then remember, it is based on your target audience. So my second tip would be follow the templates you've been given, but then realign it based on your community project. So during my time, we were given like a sample of questions that we should ask the community we'll be reaching out to, and I just restructured it based on my community project and asked questions that were relevant and related to my own field. I would advise that you do not deviate so far away from the tips, from the sample questions, but then build it around your community issues. So if there are questions that needs to be tweaked a little bit, or maybe you need to change a word or replace a word with your own community, then fine, go ahead and do it. Be flexible. Do not just constrain yourself to a particular spot. Try to be creative, understand your feedback and summarize based on your understanding. So if you do not understand your project or what you're working on and you're unable to communicate it, I doubt if you would be able to convince the reviewer that you did the work yourself and you know what you're doing. So why should they trust you with implementing this project? How are they sure that you did this project yourself? How are they sure that this idea is yours? How are they sure that you've done what you said you've done in the past, for those of you that have experience? So community survey is more like an avenue to aid your video presentation, because how you conduct your survey tends to affect how you present. Don't make your questions too complicated. Rather, make it in a way that can be easily translatable, in a way that you can easily communicate during your video presentation. And also, give your questions to as many persons as possible. That way you would have more persons to fall back to in case some disappoint, especially if you're dealing with like Google Forms and links. Because I remember when I sent mine to some persons, it took a whole while for them to give me feedback. While some responded quickly, some others were not able to. So at that point I didn't have control of it, but then I had to work with the ones that provided responses to me. So bonus tip: start early. I cannot overemphasize on starting early, because that way you make mistakes, you take corrections, you try again, you have time to do all this. But then when you make it like a few days, few hours to the deadline, you would notice that you're working under pressure, you become so anxious. Sometimes you may not be able to communicate properly in your video presentation due to anxiety or stress. Try to avoid all these lapses that may likely affect your video presentation. So, on to the next one. For the video presentation, I have just a few tips that are going to help you slay it. So, based on the presentation, I would advise that you own your work and briefly give a summary of everything that you did throughout your community survey. So, based on my presentation, I didn't really hold a book or try to put in figures, because I had an in-depth knowledge of my community and also studied the data I got from my community survey, which gave me a deeper understanding to be able to also translate it statistically. The next tip I would be giving you is that your video should be able to convince. So don't be too serious, but don't be less serious about it. So you just have to find a balance and be able to explain yourself and describe this community issue briefly, smartly, and then concisely. Just go straight to the point. You don't need to beat about the bush or anything. That was why I advised that you should start early. That way you have more time to prepare, more time to make mistakes and make corrections as well. My next tip would be sort responses based on similarities. So let's take, for instance, you distribute a survey to like 30 persons, or let's just say 60 persons, and then you had 18 persons with the same answers. That way you're able to say statistically, out of the 60 persons I gave the community assessment, 30% of the participants did not see this as an issue. Do you get what I mean? So if 30% of people do not see this as an issue, then 70% should, right? So that way you have a balance. That way you have your statistic right. You don't even need a data analyst to help. So the next tip would be avoid procrastination and conduct your video relaxed. I cannot overemphasize on conducting your video early and making those mistakes and making corrections, just like I told you earlier, because that way you know that you have time to make corrections, you have time to show people. Because during my time as the perfectionist that I tend to tilt towards, I did my video over and over again. I also sent it to a few persons who could look at it, make corrections, and I redid the video. That was how zealous I was in getting into the MCW. Another bonus tip: so if you're doing your video, try to avoid graphics as much as possible. Trust me, everybody wants to see you, how bold you are, how you're able to communicate, how you're able to enunciate, how you're able to deliver your community survey and give the feedback correctly. So do not bother yourself in trying to show that you're a graphic designer or show your editing skills. Just focus on getting your community survey right, and do not think of how to put in the graphics design by the side, or maybe like your answers by the right hand, because they already have those answers. So focus on having the attention on you, having their attention on your community project, having their attention on how you deliver. For the interview phase, I feel like the interview phase is more like a reward for a community survey well done. Just like the community survey was more like a reward for an application well written. So you need to ensure that you own your work and you're ready to ace it. So 3 tips. Be ready to ace it, be on time, be open-minded and ready to share your work with certainty. Everyone wants to be sure that you know what you're doing. So I just want to quickly add that I was on time during the interview phase since it was via Zoom, and I ensured that I was there before the interviewer, and then I tested my internet connection to avoid any had I known case. And I was also asked about the work I was doing in my community and what I wrote in my application, and I was really specific in giving honest responses. So I was really prepared. I went through my application, the community survey, the feedback, which helped build my confidence in the interview phase. So I hope you will do better, and I look forward to connecting with you via the Alumni platform. So guys, we have come to the end of the video, and I remember during my time as an MCW applicant, I was really looking out for tips on how to stand out in my application. I tried different search engines and found little content about it, but I'm grateful that I was able to get in, and I am here now to do content like this for you who are aspiring to become an MCW young leader. So if you found this video helpful, do not forget to click on the subscribe button down below and like, and also share your thoughts with me in the comment section. I'll be down there waiting for you. Thank you, and see you in my next video.